that will govern all of the facilities seeking to pursue biogas production. And I apologize if I imagine there are varying degrees of familiarity with the issue, but I like to present as though this is the first time that you've been exposed to these things, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the very basics before we jump into biogas. So, those of y'all who do not know all that much about how industrial hog operations manage their waste, the key is it's using this what's called lagoon and spray field system. So this is not your mom and pop sort of bucolic pastoral image of the American Gothic kind of farmer. This is very much an industrial operation. It used to be the case, in fact, in 1982, which I think is significant this week in particular, because that's when Michael Jordan led the Tar Heels to a national championship in college basketball. In 1982, there was a commercial hog operation in all but one of, and I heard the gentleman earlier talking about how there are 100 counties in North Carolina. At that time, there was a hog operation in 99 of our counties, and there were about 11,000 of them. But they looked very different than what I'm going to be talking about today. And the industrialization of this particular pork production and the resulting concentration of the industry in the coastal plain is a large reason why it presents such a significant threat to the environment in the Cape Fear watershed and throughout the coastal plain of North Carolina. Big picture, right? When they decided that they were going to move from having animals out on the pasture to confining them in these concentrated animal feeding operations, they had to figure out a different way of managing the waste than they had historically utilized. So this is what became the industry standard. Big picture, there are three components I want you to think about. The barns, where the animals live their entire lives above slotted floors through which their waste falls. Then the lagoons, into which that waste is periodically flushed for storage. And then the spray fields, onto which the contents of those lagoons are sprayed on the theory, and this is why it's permitted, under the theory that they'll provide beneficial fertilizer to the receiving crops. The problem is significant because at each of these different phases of waste management, there can be emissions and discharges that impact the public health and environmental quality in surrounding communities. Big picture, this is a waste disposal method, more so than an attempt to beneficially contribute to the adjacent farming operations. One of the biggest problems that we have is over-application of the tremendous volumes of waste that are generated. And I'm going to get to a little bit more about how some of the recent problems that we have documented are going to be exacerbated by this proposed change. The other thing that's important, I mentioned I'm going to try to educate and motivate you to participate in upcoming hearings to influence the way that the new proposed waste management systems are regulated. The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality is the entity that actually permits these waste management systems. Adverse impacts